Hello and welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. I'm Joe.
I'm Nick.
And today we are reviewing Dune Part 2. Part dos, amigo. Even more sand, even more worms. Actually, the second part might be true. I don't know if there was more sand or not.
Yeah, not possible, but definitely more worms.
Yeah, I don't plan on counting the grains. But in any case, we're here to talk about Dune 2.
Spice, baby.
No, please, go on.
How many variations of music can we throw spice into? Like, spice, baby.
That was exactly the one I was going to go for. Now I've got nothing. You took mine. Unbelievable.
Just like I took your spice. Sorry.
I you know what? It's yours. Take it. You lead the show now. You have the spice. Who owns the spice owns the podcast. Here. Isn't that how the beginning of the movie goes?
Yeah, essentially.
By the way, just real quick before we dive into the show here. The voice, the Sakaar, or it's not Sakaar. That's Marvel, but it sounds like Sakaar. The language that they speak, like the Emperor's like guards, right? Mm-hmm. His elite forces. That language that is the beginning of this movie, the beginning of Dune Part 1. It's so cool sounding. It's freaking frightening as hell.
I love just movies like this when there's just multiple different languages and this is everything you want a movie to be in Hollywood these days. This movie, in my opinion. Like, everything that is right with Hollywood is in this movie, basically, in my opinion. But we'll get there.
So I think we have just found out how Nick feels about this movie.
Yeah.
Nick loves this movie.
This movie's incredible. Absolute monster of a film.
Nice.
Can't beat it.
I am right there with you, and so are a lot of people at this point right now. We're not quite beyond the box office weekend yet, but at the start of the box office weekend, audiences are giving this a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, which is obviously very high. So let's get into this movie, but before we do,
oh no,
it is that time.
Is it me?
Where one of us has to make a fool out of ourselves. It's you.
No.
It is time for the 15-second summary.
I've had so much time to prepare for this.
You did.
And I fucking forgot it was my turn again.
How did you forget? I crushed it last time. How did you forget about my excellent A+ performance?
It's been a long week. I'm not. This is. I don't even remember how the movie starts because so much happens after it begins.
That's a bad start right there, Nick. You gotta explain how it starts.
Oh, this is terrible.
For those who don't know, Nick has 15 seconds to summarize this movie in the best way that he can. Gotta get at least the basic bones of the plot. At the very end of this, I will grade him, depending on how he does. And just as a reminder, I got an A+ last time. I'm just gonna flaunt that forever because it's the first A+ and probably the only A+ that I will ever get in this stupid challenge that we came up for ourselves. All right, are you ready, Nick?
Right. Just do it. This is gonna be terrible.
All right. Oh wait, I'm not ready. I'm like taunting you over here. I'm not even ready. Stopwatch. Here we go. Okay, Nick. I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1. You ready? 3, 2, 1. Begin.
Paul Atreides and his mother work to become one with the Fremen and try to convince them that Paul is the chosen one so that they can raise an army to then be able to take back over spice production and get revenge for their father and whole race being slaughtered.
Time. That was surprisingly good.
You know what? Actually, now that I pulled that off, so much happens in this movie, but what I just said is basically the whole plot.
That was the whole plot. I mean,
it's
I asked for
super simple.
Yeah, I asked for a summary of the plot. That was it. I didn't even think you were gonna get to the revenge thing, and you're like, yeah, that's the whole motivation.
That's pretty good. Yeah, actually, I'm pretty proud of myself there.
I am impressed. I'm not gonna give you an A plus, but
it was an A plus.
It was an A plus. I am gonna give you an A though. I'm gonna go for like an A minus. I'm gonna give you an A minus on that. Like you did really well for such a beefy movie here.
Yeah, you had to keep it simple because like, yeah, I mean it gets crazy. So I'm proud of myself actually because I was really dreading that for a second.
Yeah, I was really glad I didn't have to do that.
But you know what? This kind of leads us into how incredible this movie is because I just gave a 15-second summary of the plot, which was extremely simple, right? Paul Atreides and his mother are like, basically they are working towards becoming one with the Fremen, befriending the Fremen, and then also having to convince them that Paul is the chosen one so that they can all unite together in order to fight this gigantic battle for revenge, but also just because it's the right thing to do to get rid of the Harkonnens from being in power. Like, that's it. That's the movie. And it's 2 hours and 46 minutes.
Oh my God, so long.
And there is just so much crap that goes down. It's crazy.
Well, like there's such a huge exploration of culture, right?
Yes.
And like I feel like most of the major characters get like a really pretty great adequate amount of screen time. Yeah. You know? The movie's paced really well. 2 hours and 45 minutes. Nick was listening to me complain about how long this movie was before we started here. And I want to be clear about why I was complaining. I wasn't complaining necessarily because like I felt like this movie was going on forever. No, actually on the contrary, this movie is paced extremely well. It goes by pretty quick for 2 hours and 45 minutes. No, I was complaining because trying to find a window that you can just watch basically a 3-hour film in just your day-to-day life is not freaking easy. It's really hard.
Yeah, that's facts.
Yeah. That's mostly why I was bitching and moaning earlier. But anyway, Dune 2. This is Denis Villeneuve's. This is his movie, and we've seen him previously for Dune Part 1. Obviously, we've seen him in Blade Runner 2049, and a movie that Nick and I will be reviewing later during our time travel draft, Arrival, one of our favorites. So yeah, we are fans of Denis over here, and of his amazing work. But anyway, in diving into this particular movie of Part 2, Nick, you already summarized the plot for us, but why don't you get into the nit and grit of it? What was it that you'll... Well, yeah. What is it that you liked?
Okay, so there's a lot of issues in Hollywood right now with CGI and the battle between CGI and AI and practical effects and what is the future of making movies going to look like. And one of the great things about directors like Denis and Christopher Nolan are that they love their practical effects. And they love them because it makes everyone on set better. When you can just like immerse yourself in the world that you're trying to tell the story of, the actors can immerse themselves a lot better. Like Austin Butler sitting in hours of makeup and dress for his character, like it is on the record as saying that it like made him immediately be able to get into that character by not having it just be like a CGI or like half-assed. Like the practical effects are just the right way to make a movie. It comes through the screen. You can tell just by how the actors are acting and how the movie is going. Like it's just amazing. And like that's all I kept thinking about when I was sitting there. I was like, watching this film. Now, of course, there's some CGI. Like there's so much going on that, of course, there's some CGI. But it's the balance of CGI and practical effects that like it is gonna make the best movies. And I think that's how it is moving forward. And so, we come off a review of Madam Web from a week ago with like just terrible CGI and sound editing and dubbing, and then you come watch a proper film like this that took its time to tell a story with practical effects and CGI mixed in. And you're just like, that's my big takeaway, was just how big of a movie this was and how like incredible just the look of it. You know, it just looked like a feature film is supposed to look. I would have paid $50 to go see this film because it was that good, right? But I want my $10 back from Adam Webb.
You heard it here first, Hollywood. You can charge Nick $50 for movies from now on.
But that's the thing. Like, if it's that good and the quality is there, there's not a price.
This is actually
the creation is incredible.
So
and that's my takeaway.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, to keep going on like your meta takeaway here of the business, right? Of, you know, us. I mean, we've entered it, you know, a market now where there isn't much of a difference between the movies that are put out in theaters and that which we get on streaming devices, right? And even like some big projects, right? Like look like movie quality. I mean, I don't want to bring up any sore feelings, but like Game of Thrones had a very like cinematic quality to it. There are plenty of other shows that have been able to adopt that, right? So at the end of the day, that might be very interesting for us, the viewers, right? Being able to enjoy the fruits of that labor. But for the film market, that is horrible because why go to a theater if you're experiencing the same kind of like magic, you know, as it were, at home for significantly less money, right? But this is why, right? Because there is no other way to experience this. Like, this is an event to go to and experience it in its proper medium. And what you were saying about size, man, that was my big takeaway from part one. Denny has such a gift for being able to make something feel so immense on screen and making the viewer feel tiny by comparison. I think the scene that is like burned into my mind just from part one is it's the scene where they're trying to save all of the people working on the spice rig right before a sandworm eats the entire rig, and just like watching the worm come up and just consume everything. It just sets the sheer scale of not only the worms but like this world. Right. And you know, we do it again here in part two.
We get that scene in part two right towards the end, right when the emperor's arrived and they're gearing up for another battle, and then all of a sudden you've got the sandworms from behind coming through the sandstorm, and just
so epic.
The slow-mo like epicness, and then again making the world looks and feel so big, and everything else just like shrinking. It's just fantastic. The sound editing stands out. You know, like just the quality there, especially in the moments where like where Paul is using the voice. You know, like such cool moments with like the tone that's used with language and all these things. Like,
let's talk about the sound editing for a second. Not just the sound editing, the sound direction as well. Because there was one scene when it happened, I was like, this is my favorite moment of the entire movie. I don't even care what else happens for the rest of this movie. I don't even care. Okay, so it's early in the film. It's when Paul and Chani are they are going through, I think it's the first attack that they are doing together that they're raiding. And Chani has what appears to be the equivalent of a rocket launcher. And they're trying to take out what is the equivalent of like a helicopter with artillery fire, right? And the whole idea here is that Paul is going to distract long enough for the shield to come down and for Chani to take her shot, right? So they do that, they execute it, they get the shot, the helicopter blows up, and it cuts back to the camera's pulled back, they're underneath the legs of this crawler, right? This mechanical crawler, and we see Chani sprint toward Paul, toward one of the other legs, and as we see her do that, everything is silent except for Chani giving this giggle, like, haha. And then, like, as soon as, like, the laugh happens, all of a sudden the helicopter just falls into scene and just this huge immersive explosion just shatters the silence. It was so freaking cool. I couldn't get enough of that. I was like, A, that was adorable. B, like, what a way to suck the viewer in.
Hell yeah.
Amazing direction.
Yeah. That scene stood out to me as well because of, like, the deafening silence for a moment before, like, the chaos of the chopper imploding and crashing to the ground happens. Like there's like that, and there's enough time in between for you to like build up some tension. You're like, oh, like we didn't. What's about to happen? You're like, oh, so
right.
good.
Where'd the helicopter go?
Where'd the helicopter go? I thought it was just hit with a rocket launcher, and then all of a sudden, bam, just comes out of nowhere. Yeah, and speaking of sound, like obviously soundtrack wise, Hans Zimmer, who's just an all time. You know, if Hans Zimmer's doing your soundtrack. But this is the coolest part about this. So like Hans Zimmer, apparently he is a Dune fan to where like he's read the books and all of these things too. Mm-hmm. And so he was working on, you know, the Dune Part One soundtrack very early on. And when Dune 1 finished, he was already working on the Dune 2 soundtrack.
Wow.
He just kept writing music because he had already read the books. And he knew what it needed. He's like, I know what I need to write. So he just kept writing.
I knew Hans Zimmer. I knew Hans Zimmer must have been a nerd, but wow, what a nerd.
How amazing is that? And
that is incredible.
Yeah. And apparently he's already writing Dune Part 3.
Yes. Oh my God.
Well, I forget. There's a name. Messiah. Dune Messiah. He's already writing Dune Messiah's like soundtrack apparently too.
So for the record, I don't think that's an official name because
okay.
Denny has said that he's prepared a part 3. That part 3 is part of their plan. Right. But Warner Brothers has not greenlit that movie yet.
Well, Warner Brothers better greenlight that, or someone else is gonna.
They're going to. They're going to, because like, okay, so I caught an afternoon screening of this, right? So luckily for me, like no one was really in there, which was awesome. It was so great to watch this movie like by myself and like in the epicness of the scale, right? But when I left, because it was a 3-hour film, it was past dinner time, and the theater was just filling up with people, and like,
wow, nice.
It was hilarious because like most of them were talking about Dune, and what I found this funny was because clearly like there were groups of like mixed fans in here. Not that anyone like didn't like it, but it was people who loved it who were dragging people to come to the theater, and they were re-explaining the plot of Part 1.
That's amazing.
I heard that conversation like 6 times on my way out of the theater.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Oh, okay. So what else? What about you? Anything else that like stood out to you? Well, okay, I have another one, but you can go first.
For sound direction, just real quick. Okay. I mean, really, this could be said about Part 1. I mean, it feels weird distinguishing the two movies because like it's all one story, right? Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. Right. But I will say, since it is a big part of Part 2 as well, you brought up the score that Hans Zimmer is responsible for. Yeah. I don't know what this song is called, but I'm just going to refer to it as Dune Lady. And I think you know what I'm talking about. Just the that scares the hell out of me every time it pops up on screen. And I laugh for like a second.
You just scared the hell out of me. You just scared the hell out of me, and you're gonna scare the hell out of everyone on YouTube because I'm just gonna cut that as a short and just send that. Yeah. That's all I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Just you just going ah.
Yeah. Just make sure it's labeled Dune Lady and then just my face. But yeah, Dune Lady, even though it's terrifying whenever it sneaks up on you, because that's what happens. Is Dune Lady sneaks up on you because like it's silent and then she just wails into the screen. Yeah. It is epic every time after I get over how frightened I am by her.
That's so funny. We have to talk about Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, he's having that back-to-back good movies for him.
He was like, he's so damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like, it was an incredible performance. I like multiple times throughout the film, I was like, this kid is like, he has fully arrived. Like it's just like absolutely crushing this role. So impressive. I don't really have any other notes there. I just like, it was just so good.
I do.
Like, okay.
I have a quick note on it. So in Part 1, when we're introduced to him, because he's fairly, he's tiny, he's skinny. And I remember like looking at him and I guess not having a lot of like, knowledge of where this was going and thinking to myself like, I've got to be honest, I don't really see this kid being like, a messiah or like a warrior. Really, I get he's supposed to be good at fighting in part 1, but I'm like, I don't really believe it. Get to this movie and like he's beefed up quite a bit, and like he really brought some like intensity. I think it's present toward the end of part 1, but I think there's more of a naivety that he brought to the character, and I think that's important, right? Because he's still like a boy, right? Whereas here, like, he's really taking on, it's not just that it's a boy learning to become a man. I think he gets that actually pretty early on. If not, he's figured that out by the end of the first movie. It's more of like a man learning how to become a leader. And that transformation is pretty cool. Really like actually how reluctant he is, especially to go south, right? And the responsibility that he's going to take on once he actually does that, and I guess the tonal shift of his life, right? Pretty great performance, as you said. I mean, everyone was hitting it out of the park. In particular, Zendaya, she's always awesome. She was great. Austin Butler as Fade Ratha. So scary.
So scary.
Okay, so what I said about freaking Timothée Chalamet in part 1, right? The exact opposite here. I wanted to be nowhere near Austin Butler every time he was on screen. He was so scary.
He was terrifying.
Yeah.
Really well done. Yeah.
I loved how, so I think this is the first time we're doing a franchise that I really don't know a lot about Dune. I've never read Dune.
Same.
So I'm pretty green on it. When Ratha is introduced, I kind of just assumed he was going to be like this mindless wolf, right? Of a character, not a lot of shade to him. We don't get to spend a ton of time with this character, but I actually really love how much there's a weird amount of depth to that character. That I really enjoyed, because he is ruthless, and he is terrifying, but there's also like this side of him that craves more power, and there's this also this sense of honor that he brings into his fighting. I love that he in his killing of an Atreides warrior, and then in his defeat of an Atreides warrior. I love that, he says the same thing going in and going out, and you believe him, right? Like, it doesn't feel like it's hollow words. They feel real to him. He's a cool character.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool character. Another one of my favorite characters in this film was played by Javier Bardem. Am I saying his last name right? Yeah, Bardem. He plays Stilgar, the Fremen. The Fremen who is the biggest believer in Paul, that he's the chosen one. Listen, his facial expressions whenever Paul did something that fit the prophecy, I was absolutely losing my mind in the theater. I was actually laughing out loud at a couple of these moments when no one else in the theater is laughing, and I'm just they probably think I'm insane. I'm like, this guy is hilarious. The disbelief on his face. when Paul comes back to life after he drank the life water.
Yeah.
When he comes back to life, the disbelief on Stilgar's face is just it's hysterical. It was actually hysterical. There were parts of this movie that because of him were actually funny. And I don't know if that's what we were supposed to get.
Right.
But it was hilarious to me. And so I really loved his character for that. But the other thing that was really cool, and you hit on this earlier, was about the storytelling with the different cultures, and even the lore with these other cultures, right? When we've got the Reverend Mother lore, right? And that whole culture of the women who have the sight or whatever,
that whole agenda that they have,
their whole agenda, their whole plot to save certain bloodlines and all these stuff, so much lore just going on in the background, and political strategy, you know, for the whole like kingdom. Like totally fascinating.
Yeah.
Totally fascinating.
Because to them it feels like they're playing a very different game, right? It's not necessarily like, it almost feels like when they talk about like the houses and the bloodlines, it sounds like a gardener like tending to like certain like corners of the garden, right?
Right.
And that was neat to hear.
Yeah, and like they don't even care necessarily which one wins. They just want to make sure that everything is possible. They're like, we're making sure all possibilities are possible. So like, we need the bloodlines to live. So
there's that,
it's wild. Yeah,
there's that comment to the Reverend Mother at the end, right? Of where she says to her, you think that there's more than one side, right? It's like it's all the same side. It's all for the betterment of humans and mankind.
He's like, you chose the wrong side. It's like, why do you still think there's a side? Totally. Yeah, exactly. It's like those like stories within the story were fascinating to me. Obviously, getting to know the Fremen culture. I was not expecting this movie to be so much about like a religion. Did not expect that going in because like, you know, I haven't really read Dune, which was like, you know, fascinating in its own right.
To be fair, he did say he was going to lead a holy war in the first movie.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. But yeah, that's a great point actually. But I don't know. I guess I just wasn't expecting.
Guess I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, but I wasn't expecting him to be like the chosen one. Actually, like, you know, like a god chosen one. I guess I was more expecting him to be like someone just like a warrior chosen one or something, right? Not necessarily a prophet.
Well, yeah, and that's like one of the more interesting like plot elements of the movie, or I should say the story, because you know Frank Herbert came up with it first. Masterpiece, good for him.
Masterpiece.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna good for him. I'm never gonna write one. Maybe, who knows? Knock on wood.
Yeah, you already are. You already are. Blushing. Joe's a blushing.
But yeah, but that's one of the more interesting plot elements of this story is that Paul is completely aware that there's this fanaticism about this Messiah, and that he's aware that he's like playing into it, and that he's using it for his own intentions. He doesn't, for at least a time, he says he does not see himself as the actual Messiah, but he sees like the opportunity he has to use these people to get him closer. I guess to really use these people to further their agenda by also furthering his own agenda, which is to get him closer to the Emperor and get revenge for his father, right? But as he plays more and more into that role, like I think toward the end there, he just totally accepts like, yup, it's me. I'm him. I'm him, everybody. I'm here. That scene, when, dude, that was okay, let's talk about scenes that freaking mattered. Okay. The scene where he accepts that he is the Messiah, right? In front of all of the Southerners and all the fanatics, when there's a challenge of only a leader can speak up here. And Stilgar, as you said, says, yeah, you have to kill me. You have to, you know, release my moisture, return it. We have to return my moisture. And he's like, nah, dog. And just takes center stage, and he's like, none of you could take me, and you all know it except for like this one guy who's like, maybe I could, and like he just totally calls him out. He like calls out everything about his past. And the dude's just amazing. Like, ho, praise Jesus, and like goes down. That scene is so intense. And like you figure Paul is probably in control, because at this point he seems to have clear clairvoyancy of the future and the past, but like he's surrounded by thousands of people, and they all look like at one point they're about to kill him. And yeah, it just doesn't go down that way. And like you said, I mean, Timothy really put everything into this character. I was ready to follow Paul. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, without a doubt. Another standout we have to talk about, well, two people really. Like Rebecca Ferguson is like she's got to be one of my favorite actresses right now because she's also done a ton of stuff recently. And one of those is the TV show Silo, which is also based on a book series that's on Apple TV. Freaking huge must watch. Amazing show.
I actually think about it like, every time I put on Apple TV. I'm like, I still haven't watched that show Nick told me to watch.
Dude,
I didn't do that.
All you have to do is hit play once. Like Jeffrey Wright's in it. Like you got to hit play.
Do you like Jeffrey Wright?
Just hit play. Another big standout for me for this film, and the first film too with Dune Part One, Stellan Skarsgård.
Yes.
Like what?
Yes.
Like the cast is so perfectly picked for these movies. It's crazy. Like the casting director and obviously the director, like huge props. It's like who else could play the Baron besides Skarsgård? I mean, the voice alone is like as good as it gets. It's just like perfect. Like he's like, it's like perfectly cast. Incredible.
Walk me through that for you personally. Like what was it about Skarsgård's voice delivery that you like so much?
Oh, it's just like it's just like harrowing. Like he's like scary or like terrifying, but calm about everything that's happening. And then he's got that tone that he you know, obviously part of that tone is actually his voice. And then there's obviously going to be some sound editing there, but like, it just brings the whole character together. It's just like fantastic.
No, I totally agree.
It's crazy.
Because like in his, he obviously can't, you know, move around a lot, right? That's like part of the character. And you hear like there is kind of like a laborness to the vocal delivery, right? But in exactly what you just said, you know, there's something like, for as calm and like as like sedentary as like the voice is, there's something really horrible in the voice, right? Like something like that's really terrifying. It's just a subtle like little touch that he adds to it, and it's like it's enough to like you realize I need to listen to everything that this person is saying because at any moment this could go bad for someone.
For a character to have so much power with just his voice, because he doesn't have a lot of power like physically, right? Because he's like he's been through a shit ton, like, you know, like he's vulnerable in that sense, right? But just from his persona, it's just like you don't want to get on this guy's bad side. Like he has so much power that it's just bigger than his physical capabilities. Essentially, it's wild.
You know, there was one performance in here, and you know, it's not fair to say performance. It's really one casting choice that hits me kind of weird, and maybe it's because I'm a Marvel fanboy. You know who I'm gonna say. Now you do. And I thought this in Part One too. And it is to no fault of Dave Bautista. He's really doing a really great job in the character that he's delivering, I think, anyway.
I agree.
My problem is
he did well.
My problem is the makeup that he has isn't that different from, like, you know, his character in Guardians of the Galaxy, right? It's the same. He looks the same, and like his voice isn't that different either. So like that's all I hear, right? So like.
Yeah, you're still hearing.
Drax. Oh my God. Yeah, I was having the same issue. I was having the same problem. I was like, why can't I remember his name?
I knew you were having a problem, and I was trying to look it up for you to help out, and then I forgot.
I swear I love Marvel, even in its current state.
Yeah, that's hysterical.
Oh my God, yeah, I legit could not get that out. I had to walk through the characters, just like, there's Groot, there's Rocket. You know, it's funny. I got to the Destroyer before I got to Drax. I was like, something the Destroyer.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, that's a good point, I guess. He's kind of got... And in some ways, he plays a similar character. Not completely, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, they're both warriors, right?
They're both warriors. So
I would say that's about as far as it goes, though. you know? Because like, I think his name Beast Robin. He's kind of bumbling, right? In a way that Drax isn't. I mean, Drax is, he's a fool in some capacity, but not like this. Like Drax is still very capable, right? In a way that I don't know. I never felt threatened by Beast being on screen, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Well, I don't think we were really supposed to.
Right, and that's why I'm saying, like, anyway, I think Dave did a good job.
Like, he did a great job. Yeah, right? Yeah, for sure. I can see your point, though. For a second, I thought you were going to say, and this would be the only thing for me that felt a little like it was nice to see this actor on screen because it came out of the blue. Didn't have a lot of time on screen, and then I kind of found myself wondering, like, well, why did they choose him? And it's just, and that's Christopher Walken.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about that. That was weird.
I love Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
I don't know who doesn't. And when he first popped up, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Christopher Walken's the Emperor. This is fantastic. But then, like, we don't get a lot of scenes with the Emperor. And at the end, there's not really he doesn't have a lot of speaking lines because Paul Atreides is like, he's doing all of the talking. And like the Emperor just has to kind of accept it because he's been defeated. So like, it felt kind of like a weird role to put Christopher Walken in because he just, it's not like anything he would maybe normally be in, I guess, and he didn't have a lot of speaking lines. But to me, it felt kind of weird to have such a big name play that kind of a role when I feel like they probably could have just got anyone. But then I guess maybe not anyone can feel like an emperor. I don't know.
Does Christopher Walken feel like an emperor?
No, but he doesn't. He doesn't feel like an emperor. So that's why I'm like, it felt like a weird choice.
Right.
It felt like a weird choice.
Right. I don't know how menacing the emperor is supposed to feel, but that is not how I felt about Christopher Walken's performance at all.
Right.
And like the performance is fine, I suppose. Right. Like it's serviceable.
Right.
But like, there's nothing, like you said, there's really nothing to it. Right. And hey, for anyone who is familiar with the book series, or really the first book, if the Emperor if we're expecting the Emperor to have a bigger role in Part 3, then maybe tell us that.
Let us know in the comments.
Yes, please. Spoil that for me before I start reading the book myself.
That's funny.
Because I agree. Like it just feels so odd. Maybe he does have a bigger role in Part 3. Because I mean, like you could say something similar about Zendaya in Part 1, right? It's like, well, why was Zendaya in the movie? Like she was barely in it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Man, the choreography in this movie too is so damn good with the fight scenes. I mean, it's insanely good. It's so ridiculous. Every single fight scene, like all those battles, the movement of the Fremen and the movement of all these other warriors and the Harkonnens and everything like that, like it's just so damn good. And that fight scene at the end between Paul and
Austin Butler,
Austin Butler's character, my God, was that good? My goodness,
that is awesome. The best choreographed fight of the whole movie.
Yeah,
it is that so intense.
That was excellent, so excellent, and especially like because I hadn't read the book, so I really wasn't sure what was going to happen. And when Paul gets stabbed, I'm just like, oh my God, no way. Is he actually gonna die? Is this all just like gonna fluster out right here? Like, what the heck?
The thought hit me too. I was like, is he gonna die? Because like he just had that line of like, for as long as I breathe, I will love you. I was like, is he literally about to die?
All right. But no, pulled it off. Incredible fight scene.
He also pulled the knife out.
Great.
Pulled
he
it
did
out.
Pull the knife out. Pulled it out.
Pulled out the W too.
Pulled out the W. Pulled it out. Put it in. Got the dub.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Are you not entertained?
Are you? Yeah. It's 2024's version of the Gladiator, I guess.
Yeah.
So good.
Let me ask you, since we're talking about performances, we mentioned Zendaya's performance earlier. It definitely warrants her whole performance, her whole character journey throughout the movie definitely deserves being talked about. What'd you think about Chani's journey through the movie?
I don't really feel like she had, like, I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel like she really had too much of a journey, like too complicated necessarily. The beginning, it was more like, making sure she can trust Paul and teaching Paul the ways of being a Fremen. And then they fall in love. And then she's like accepting him for who he is and like not believing the prophecy stuff at all. And then as things unfold, she doesn't like believe that he's the prophet, but she also can't deny all of the similarities that are being spoken, because as more and more people start believing, you kind of like get caught in this whole like, I'm surrounded by people who believe and who keeps repeating the same reasons why they believe. And at some point you just kind of like, maybe you don't fully believe yourself, but you don't deny it as hard as you did earlier. And I kind of feel like that's kind of like what her journey is. And then when he comes back to life after drinking the life water, I feel like it kind of flips a switch where like she maybe understands, but then is also like super pissed that like he has to now like take up this like extra mantle and be this like figure when she clearly like doesn't really want that. I think that's kind of what I got from it. And then obviously like she's super heartbroken when like he chooses and makes the announcement later about wedding the emperor's daughter to like create this like unity with their houses, which is heartbreaking. But for every other man in the theater who like is in love with Zendaya or Chani, if you will, like was probably cheering on the inside. Like, thank God. Paul's an idiot.
Timothy, get away from her.
Paul chose power instead of love. What a dumbass.
I would never.
I don't know. What did you get from like her character? Am I thinking too simply? Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I don't, without having read the book and without having seen where this is going, I don't know what's the wrong interpretation. I think for me, I think I thought it was as maybe more complicated is too strong of a word, because I mean, you did a pretty good job of summing it up, right? I think I disagree about what happened with her toward the end there. So like, yeah, like the character journey is, she ends up falling in love with this guy who, in her eyes may be important to her people, but like she doesn't see him at that way. And he has even told her like, I don't want power. Like I want you. Right. And she buys into that. And I think Paul does too for a time. Right. And when it becomes clear that it is when that time has passed, right, when he's drunk the life water, this is like the first act of betrayal, right? Because this was the power that she was told that he was not going to go for, because she knew the fundamentalists were here, and that the radicals were going to absolutely latch on to the symbolism of this man, whether he is who he might be or not, right? And yeah, like you said, toward the end, I think she continues to deny that he is as important as the people around her say that he is. And I'm not sure if she believes it or not, but she does continue to deny it. And all the way up to the end, when that final betrayal happens, right? The one that you said, I think at that point, like I think there's a lover scorn there, right? Like she's done with him, so to speak. I don't know if that's too strong. I don't think she's on board with what's going on, and I think she's going to be antagonistic toward him toward the end. Because like if you recall in part one, he does have he has visions of the future, right? And like many of them are conflicting because they don't always come out the way that he thinks that they're going to, and that's because he only sees possibilities, right? And there is one very confusing vision that he has where he's about to kiss Chani, and instead of kissing him, she stabs him. And for all we know, maybe that's where we're going at this point, or maybe not. Maybe we get the apocalyptic version of Chani where her face is burning off, right? There's a lot of possibilities at this point. I I don't see the two of them getting together anymore. I think that ship has sailed. I think Chani is all about her people, and at this point, she sees that her people are being used in a war that is now no longer about the planet. Right now, it's about this empire, the universe. Right. So I think. Yeah, I think there is a deep divide now between these two characters. Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's gonna be it's an awesome part of the storyline to follow. That story is definitely not done being told yet, so it'll be really interesting to see what happens next. I also need to now read Dune because there are so many awesome stories being told right now, like. Visually, that makes me want to go back and read the books. Like Silo's one of them, but there's a shit ton of Silo books. It's crazy. And then Dune's obviously got a number of books in the series. It's just like, man, I want to read. I don't have time to read all these freaking stories. Like, it's crazy.
Dude, same. Problem. First world problems, right?
First world problems, yeah. Props to the directors and just the everyone, everyone part of making the film. It's crazy how awesome it was.
I agree that everyone brought their A game for this film. It was so much fun. I honestly want to watch it again in theaters. It was that good.
I might have to. Yeah, 100%. What else? Was there anything you didn't like? I think I've talked about everything I liked, and I'm interested if you have anything you didn't like, because I don't really. I'm not sure.
I think I was so invested into this movie that I think I overlooked anything that may have been problematic. At first, I thought that there was something conflicting going on with Zendaya, or Chani rather, but I realized that was purposely done for her character. It was in the beginning when Paul and his mother are drinking water, and there are people among the Freemen who are laughing and making fun of them, and Chani says, he deserves your respect. He's a good warrior. And then like 5 minutes later, they're out in the desert, I guess right before Paul's mother ends up taking the life water, right? And as they're waiting, Chani and a bunch of other characters are laughing and making fun of them, right? And at first I thought that was an inconsistency. I don't think it is anymore. I think she was like more so laughing about the radicals among their group.
Yeah.
And like how seriously they were taking this. And they're like, that's so stupid.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. But no, I really don't. I want to. I want to be able to have a negative criticism, but like, I don't know. Right now I don't. I guess I save it for the next time I watch this movie. Go watch Dune 2. It's great.
Yeah, definitely go watch it. 100%. We're going to have to watch it again because I can't think of anything off the top of my head either, which is tough because usually there's like at least something that like bothers me, but
yeah,
I think for the most part, yeah, I mean, it's just fantastic. Absolute monster of a film. Like, go watch the damn thing.
This is what saves movie theaters.
This is literally what movies are for. Like, this is why, like, you want to go to a movie theater for a movie like this. Like, it's fantastic.
I just want to say, because we haven't really talked about it a whole lot. Anytime a sandworm appears on screen, I just get so giddy. I'm just like, oh my god, it's huge, it's weird. I love it. I love the sandworms.
The sheer scope of those sandworms, like when they were riding the sandworms, and how they like showed us the how they travel with the sandworms across the desert with canopies on top and everything. Like, awesome. Just an awesome way to travel. Like, are you kidding me? Like, so freaking cool. Yeah, incredible film. I mean, Jesus, it's insane how good this movie is. It's unbelievable.
It's it's really great that, like, so you had this book, right, that like clearly like had a lot of like well thought out lore and like a really well thought out developed story with 3-dimensional characters, right? It's really amazing that there are artists, actors, musicians, gaffers, and directors who could come together and like bring the same caliber of skill to bring this story and like all of its like strange lore to life.
Incredible.
maybe this is too much of a jump, but like I don't know, it makes me think of like, oh my god, like Stanley Kubrick, like bringing like 2001: Space Odyssey to life, or The Shining to life, like incredible stories, and then like you get like this expert filmmaker who's able to do something like otherworldly with it, right? Yeah, I mean, just like so many props to Denny and like his skill level. Just truly incredible. Eager to see more. I want part 3. I can't wait for part 3. Shoot.
Yeah, I know. Gonna be great. I'm stoked. All right. Yeah. Scores. Let's score.
Scores. I can't go perfect here. But I don't have a lot of negative things to say. That's the weird thing.
Yeah, it was too long for you.
Too long. Way too long.
There are a couple parts where like it gets a little too, where it's just Paul and Chani like kind of talking, and some of those parts can kind of seem a little bit drawn out. I think maybe at times.
Yes, but I enjoyed their conversations. But, also, like, it's Zendaya, so like.
Yeah, you're a sucker.
I'm a simp. I'm a Zendaya simp. What can I say?
I'm a Zendaya.
I don't care. I'll say it.
That's funny. Anyway, yeah, I mean it's a damn near perfect film. It's a damn near perfect film. Shit, man, like 4.9. Lock it in.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Oh, man, 4.9's high.
Yeah, but I don't think. I think this is the best film we reviewed so far in the 2 years we've done podcasts. This is the best all around film I think that we've done. That we reviewed.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Like, I can't think of another film that we have reviewed in the last 2 years that is better than this film. So I'm giving it a 4.9, and it's definitely the highest score I've ever given anything. That's for sure.
I think I'm gonna follow you in because like I really can't think of anything that I didn't like out of this movie. And I don't want to give it a 5. Maybe I'll give it a 5 after I watch it a second time. I don't know.
Right.
But 4.9. Oh, real quick, something I just wanted to say. We love Star Wars. This is obviously a Star Wars inspired podcast. But man, after learning all there is about Dune, man, does Star Wars feel lazy. Like, wow, like this is what I was missing out on. Like, holy crap, this is sci-fi.
Oh, baby, that's a good quote right there. However, but like, yeah, this is much more in line with like a Lord of the Rings story.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God, Nick, thank you for saying that.
The way that they unpack the lore and talk about all the different cultures and all the languages going on and all that, like this is like, it's fantastic.
Thank you for saying that, because this was literally a thought I had when I walked out of the movie theater. I was like, I haven't felt like this walking out of a theater since I saw Return of the King.
Yeah.
Like the scope of it, and like how much it just sucks you into the world. You feel like you're there, and it's like everything's so huge, and it's moving, it's alive. Yeah. It's just amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Good call.
Agreed.
Good call.
Agreed. What was your score? Did you match mine?
Yeah, I'm matching yours because I can't think of a reason not to. 4.9.
All right, 2.49. 2.49. Lock it in.
Lock it in.
Dune
Go
2.
See Dune. Yeah, baby.
Go see it. Love it.
You will. You will love it.
You will.
Or don't, and then tell us why. Because I would love to. Yeah.
You will love it.
If there are any hardcore book fans out there that were like, this sucked and this is why, tell us. I would love to know more about that. But
I wouldn't. Don't tell us.
Don't ruin it for Nick.
Great. This movie was great, and if there's something, you can't do everything in the books. It's just it's not possible. But this movie was awesome. But
isn't it crazy though that this is this is only one part of a book, right? So you have 3 parts for one book, right? It's crazy that this felt like a complete movie. You know what I mean? Like,
wait, this is not its own book that we just watched?
No, this is part of the first book.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Well, hence the part 2.
Yes.
So Dune Part 1 and Part 2 was the first book.
Part of the first book. The third part will be the last part of the first book.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's how big Dune 1 is.
I mean, this is incredible. We're gonna get so much film. I love this. All right. Hey, maybe we can be in the next one.
Man, maybe. Denny, you
put us in the next movie.
Yeah, just make me a Freeman. Just I'll die on screen. Dehydrate me. Oh, dehydrate me. That'd be great. Yeah, I want to be dehydrated. That was amazing when they did that.
I want to be dehydrated. Sorry, so you're singing the Ramon song. I want to be sedated. I want to be dehydrated.
We even have a song to go along with it. Come on.
All right, Hans Zimmer is going to write the score for the next film, but we're going to write just one little piece of a song.
Just one
called "I Want to Be Dehydrated." Something Weird Al. Something Weird Al would do.
Yeah, it absolutely is right up there with him. Good call. We'll pitch it to him first. Pitch it to him first.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. But
it's kind of catchy. I want to be dehydrated.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you hit the right amount of syllables. Like, it's perfect.
All right, we gotta go. That's it. That's an episode.
All right, y'all. Yeah. Hope you all enjoying Dune Part 2. That is our review. And until next time, may the review be with you.
I want to be dehydrated. Peace.